All right. We are live with New York Post reporter Mike Puma, who covers the Mets. Does a great job of it. He just watched the Subway Series. So, Mike, thank you so much for hopping in and taking some time to talk today.
Oh, it's great to be here this morning.
All right. So, I'm going to go right to it with Juan Soto. You had a pretty big story on him about the protection with Judge and like Alonso not being the same and like pitch selection being different of like what they're throwing him. He did not have a good series, obviously. So, like, what are your early takeaways about Soto like trying to adjust to Queens right now?
Yeah, and I think that's the key word is adjustment. You still expect Juan Soto to be a very good player here, and he's shown spurts of that over this first 6 7 weeks, whatever we are into the season now. Hasn't maintained at a consistent level. We saw in the Subway Series, what did he go 1 for 10, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't a factor at all, and I think some of it is that he's not getting a lot of pitches to hit, and maybe getting a little more. I don't want to say frustrated, but just a little more over anxious than in the past. Maybe coming out of his zone a little bit, but the walks are there. The on base has been pretty good. But I think it's an adjustment period. We see this with a lot of guys that come to new teams. We've seen it with the Mets before. We saw it with Carlos Beltran his first season. We saw it with Francisco Lindor, certainly his first season. So, you still expect Juan Soto to be a very good player for this team.
I agree with you 100%. Unfortunately for Met fans, he might not be quite as good as he was last year, even if he figures it out. Like you said, I'm kind of expecting more of that year too at this point. He'll still be good and he'll figure things out, but like I don't think he's going to see the numbers he saw last year.
Yeah, and listen, last year he was dynamite, and he was playing for a contract too, and he had
Mm-hmm.
Aaron Judge as he mentioned to me hitting behind him in the lineup, and Pete Alonso got off to a terrific start here, and now he's kind of regressing toward the mean a little bit in the last whatever it is, 10 days, 2 weeks, whatever it's been. Um, hasn't been that same force, but he's still somebody you've got to respect in that lineup. And Lindor was getting we didn't see much of Lindor in the Subway Series offensively. He drove in the go-ahead run on Saturday with a sac fly. But those are the guys they got to get going. Is at the top of that order, those big three right there.
Yeah, agree with you 100%. That's why I thought the comments were a little bit puzzling at the time they came because Alonso was hitting really well when that story came out. I know he's not Judge, obviously, but at the time he was looking pretty good.
He was looking pretty good, but part of it might have been that pitchers were giving Alonso a lot of pitches to hit there with the idea of this is Pete Alonso was coming off of a kind of a so-so year by his standards anyway,
Right.
and he was seeing a lot of pitches over the plate early, and maybe I think he's probably getting pitched differently here a little bit lately.
Yeah, so the Mets are still having a really good season despite losing the Subway Series. Besides Soto, I'm going to look more towards like a different angle. Like, what's something that surprised you, like in a positive direction for the Mets so far?
Well, you got to start with the pitching. I mean, who could have seen this coming, especially after Frankie Montas and Sean Manaea went down in spring training, and you're looking at it and you're saying, no, it's Tyler McGill they're bringing back, and who's this Griffin Canning, and
Huh, yeah.
you just look at the guys they've plugged in here, and the starting rotation has been excellent, and it's really kept them afloat here early, where the offense has been kind of so. The bullpen's been very good also, but I start with that rotation and the job Jeremy Hefner's done. Particularly with these guys, and Kodai Senga's pitching up here tonight at Fenway. We'll see him. He's been very good. You want to get more length out of him. You want to get more innings out of him. But and Griffin Canning, and Peterson's been good, and McGill has fallen off his last few starts here, but he got off to a very good start. So just the fact they've been able to hold the fort here, more than hold the fort with Manaya and Montas down, has really been a very good sign for this team.
Yeah, I think Jeremy Hefner does an incredible job, and then David Stearns identifying guys like the Griffin Cannings, like what you saw last year with Sevy looking good for a year, and then Manaya was not what we thought. I mean, he was way better than what anyone thought last year. And then even Quintana was pretty good too, and all these guys didn't really cost too much.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and there's always the offseason clamors to go out and sign Corbin Burns or Max Fried or whoever it may be. And, to get a guy like Griffin Canning for $4.25 million, and to, be able to plug him in there, and he's pitching to a 2.5 ERA right now. So, it starts with identifying who's the right guy, and then Jeremy Hefner and his staff take over, and it's been a winning formula so far.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. They're doing a great job out there. But speaking of Max Fried, well, your thoughts on him? He delivered another good start yesterday, even though he had to battle a little bit more. I think he's been really as good as advertised and worth every penny of that contract so far.
Yeah, and so far, and you would expect for the front end of that contract, the first whatever it may be, 3, 4, 5 years, that he's going to be worth it. And it's it's at the back end where you worry about that, where he's going to be up beyond 35 years old. But he's been excellent. And listen, it's worked out for the Yankees so far that they didn't bring Juan Soto back, because they were able to supplement their team in other areas. They got Goldschmidt, they got Bellinger, they got Fried, and so far it's looked good for them.
Yep. So we'll see. It's a long year to go. Soto's definitely will figure it out. I think some of those Yankee performances to see if they holds up. Like it's only a month, 2 months in the year. But how about the atmosphere compared to other Subway Series you covered? Like, how did you feel working there yesterday, like the whole weekend? Like, what was that like?
Yeah, and just the whole Juan Soto angle of him returning to Yankee Stadium made this a little bit different. And the Yankee fans were revved up, obviously, and I thought it was great Friday night when Juan Soto stood into the box and removed his helmet, tipped his cap to the crowd as they were chanting F Juan Soto, and but no, and listen, it was a great atmosphere in the Bronx, and the great thing is we get 3 more in July at Citi Field.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool how Soto leaned into it personally. He definitely took the high road, which was funny to see. The fans were about as wrapped up as anyone could have thought. Like, so going back to this, for the Subway Series, were you working the Subway Series too? Like at the Real World Series they had? Like, were you in the box that
in 2000? Yeah, I was at a different. I wasn't at the New York Post then. I was working in Connecticut at the time, but I was covering baseball then, and I was at the Subway Series in 2000. I covered all 5 games.
So how was that compared to this? Like, was it crazier back then? Like, was this atmosphere louder? Like, was it on equal footing? I know it's a World Series and regular season, but like the Soto angle makes it like an interesting question.
Yeah, the Soto, but of course, you had the whole circus with Piazza and Clemens going on,
right?
And it was that was another level when you had the Clemens Piazza wars going on, even in the regular season when Piazza got beamed, and then in the World Series. So I don't think anything. You don't want to say we'll ever compare, but anything I've seen to this point is compared to what 2000.
That's an interesting thing because like I was not that old back then. I could barely see it on TV, so I really want to know like what that was like. They had the classic game on yesterday, but give me some impressions of the Yankees. Like I know you're more with the Mets, but seeing what you saw the 3 games, like do you think the Yankees have a chance to go back to the World Series?
I think they're a solid team, and the thing they have going in their favor is the American League East is not very strong at all. You look behind them, you got Boston's been kind of so, and Toronto hasn't been that good, and Baltimore just fired their manager.
Yep.
So the Yankees have the advantage of playing in the American League East, but not to take anything away from the fact that I think they got a solid ball club, and you'd be surprised if they're not a big factor in October.
Yep. So we'll see how they go. So let's go back towards the Mets a little bit. What are your thoughts on Mark Vientos? I feel like he's kind of had a slow start too, and he's another one not in the top 3, but kind of in that 4 to 5 range that they need more from.
Yeah, they really do, and the defensive miscues have become more glaring when you're not hitting. Right? If you're hitting, you can look back. You can look past some of the errors, but he hasn't been sharp defensively. He looked like a couple of weeks ago he was coming out of it offensively. That hasn't happened. So I think we'll see. I think we'll see a lot of Brett Beatty at third base, and Vientos will have to figure it out probably as the primary DH here going forward before long.
I thought Beatty was fantastic at third base this weekend, especially at game 2. He took away a few hits from Volpe. That made a big difference. Maybe Mark doesn't make those plays, and the Yankees might have won game 2. So I definitely think that was a big factor as well.
Yeah, and Beatty, when you looked at the two when both were coming up, Beatty was certainly the superior defensive player. Vientos has always been kind of a work in progress, and last year he got through it, and that, as I said, with his bat last year, it made it easier to kind of overlook some of the lapses there defensively. But I think, and I don't know this for a fact, but I think it's pretty evident we're going to see a lot more Beatty at third base.
Yep. So we'll see how that looks going forward. Francisco Lindor is another guy that we should probably bring up. I know you hit on him before. He started the season pretty well, especially for his standards of not starting well in April. But overall, what are your thoughts on where Lindor's at?
Yeah, he's been good, and I think the thing that's perplexed me a little bit, and maybe Mets officials, is just defensively some of the lapses that have been there. I think he's got 7 errors. It is now.
Wow.
Already. Last year he had 12 all year last year, and that's the thing. This is a guy who's normally in the Gold Glove conversation,
right.
And I don't. He doesn't know what it is. I don't know what it is, but it's just David Stearns made reference to it last week about when he spoke to the media. He talked about the one thing that's maybe concerned him a little bit has been the defense. He didn't name any names, but he talked about guys who have been very good defensively before having some lapses here, and that certainly that points to Lindor certainly.
A guy I talked to that made a good appearance yesterday with some danger was Braziban. I feel like he's made a good impression with the Mets so far. It's been a little bit of a surprise. How is he being received over there in Queens?
Yeah, and this was a guy who came down right to the end, whether he was going to make the opening day roster, and the fact that he had options, minor league options remaining, worked against him. But he's gotten his chance. He's pitched very well. His stuff is terrific. The fact that he can go multiple innings. We saw him go back to back Saturday and Sunday against the Yankees. He's really been a bullpen savior here, and they've needed it. AJ Minter went down for the season. The other Mets lost their other lefty, Danny Young.
Yeah.
And it's part of the attrition of the season, and you need guys like Braziban who can step in there. Now, I don't expect him to pitch to I think he's under 1 now with his. I don't expect him to do that all season, but if he can just continue to be a dependable force in there, that's a big win for the Mets.
So now I'm going to look towards some injuries as well, since we brought that up. I know Ronnie Mauricio just got optioned to AAA. Do you feel like he's in their plans this year, or do you think that's just like if their offense can't figure it out and need some type of spark?
Yeah, I don't think they're sitting here right now saying, Ronnie Mauricio is going to be here on a certain date or whatever. But I think as the season progresses here, they have, first Mauricio's got to show he can do it again, right? He missed all of last year. He's had limited at bats since he's come back. So he's got to go out and I think have a solid 6 weeks before we even have this conversation of whether he's part of the Mets this year. If he goes out and does it, then you can talk about it a little bit more.
That makes some good sense. So do you have any timelines or estimations for Montas and Sean Manaea's return?
Well, now it sounds like Montas is a little bit closer because he's already throwing live batting practice, and the next step for him might be starting a minor league rehab assignment, and then so you're talking mid to late June on him. This Manaea one has been weird with the oblique because originally they were hoping late April on him, then he had a setback, and he's still at the point where he's throwing off a mound. He hasn't started facing hit, so I'd say Manaea's probably best case is late June at this point. You might be even talking about into July. So it's still going to be best case a month before you see Montas, and probably 6 weeks before you see Manaea.
Now I'm gonna wither this by saying this is extremely premature, but like come the trade deadline, do you expect the Mets to be looking for another top tier arm, like maybe a bench bat or something? And I know it's extremely early. I'm just like curious what you think.
I think they will be looking for everything. Now they may decide they don't need the starting pitching. We'll see where they are with injuries at that point, but I think certainly they'll be looking for bullpen pieces, and we'll see where they are with the bats. If Vientos has come around by then, you have Starling Marte who's been getting chances at DH, and you wonder how much longer that's going to happen here because he really hasn't come around as they thought he might. And Jesse Winker's on the IL with the oblique, and he'll be coming back in you would think early July. I think that's what they have him pegged for, but
yeah,
maybe I shouldn't say that after Manaea with his oblique. But so it's going to depend on how it unfolds with some of those guys. But I certainly expect them to be looking for bullpen and probably another bat.
Yeah, the obliques are tough. There's been a lot of Yankee oblique injuries too. It's going to take a while, so you never know with those, unfortunately.
You don't, and we saw with Jeff McNeil to start the season, so just have to wait and see.
So another guy that was brought up in the Mets circles, Luis Robert. Do you see anything there? Or do you think that's just like someone throwing stuff at the wall?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything. You never know, but at this point, I don't think so.
All right. So Pete Alonso, the offseason, how that situation was handled. Were you surprised how like public some of that stuff was? Like how long some of it took? Like, or what was your like in the whole thought process on like what went down there?
Yeah, and listen, I thought from the start that Pete Alonso wanted to be a Met and nowhere else, and he was waiting for the Mets to come back with it to him with what he deemed a respectable offer, and he really got hurt by the fact that the qualifying offer could be attached to him, and teams weren't too eager to give up a draft pick for a 30-year-old free agent first baseman. So that's one thing he will have in his favor going to this next time around. He can opt out after the season, and we'll see how his season goes. But the fact that he won't have the qualifying offer attached to him should help him.
So you touched on this before with like some of your career journey, like working through Connecticut and then now going to the New York Post like a while back. So take us through like some of your journey and maybe something that's like stood out or like what's been the coolest moment of like covering the Mets.
The coolest, well, I would, you start with the 2015, the run in the last couple of months and covering them in the World Series. And, I was just going over that World Series in my head last night, thinking about, how
Well,
really,
oh.
you got the lead in game one. And, I feel like they should have been going back to Kansas City up 3-2, and that they should have won that World Series, but um, but yeah, I've been writing sports for over 30 years now. And I worked in Connecticut. I started covering high schools there, and then I moved to another paper in Connecticut, and that's when I first started covering Major League Baseball in the late '90s. '98 was my first season covering baseball, and that was just such a great time to get started because Bobby Valentine had arrived with the Mets, and they were starting to turn things around. And the Yankees, obviously that year they won 114 games in the regular season. And for me, that was so much fun getting started in that era. 98, 99, 2000. Those years were just terrific covering baseball. Now I've been at the New York Post, since 2007, and on the Mets beat since 2010. So seen a lot of baseball.
For sure. Like, how grueling is the grind of traveling on the road like we're 162? Like, how tough does that get sometimes with all the road?
Yeah, and it can be. It's I'm lucky at the Post. I have we have a deep bench, a lot of backup guys that can spell me a lot when the team is home. So it's when I come off the road, I get some days off and such. But it's a long season, especially you got to factor in spring training too,
Yep.
which is a grind. And then once the season ends, you got the GM meetings, you got the winter meetings. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't shut off right after the season ends. So you get some downtime maybe around the holidays and after the holidays. But free agencies seems to extend deeper and deeper into the winter now every year.
Yeah,
we saw with Pete Alonso, right?
Yeah,
but it's still fun.
What's some top piece of advice you would have for someone that wants to follow your career path?
Well, don't follow my career path because I don't know if that career path is there. But you know what? You just got to, and this is what I tell the young people that looking to get into. You just got to keep your options open, because when I was starting out, I didn't want to. I didn't have a print reporter on my radar at all. I wanted to be a broadcaster, and I ended up getting an opportunity in print and learning in the business because the opportunity was there, and I ultimately took that direction. So I think my advice would be just keep your options open and see where the path might be to go somewhere.
Well, Mike, thank you. I know you probably get going since you got a long road trip ahead of you, and now you're in Boston. So I appreciate your time, and it's been cool to interact with you over these past 2 years. Hopefully I'll see you at Citi Field soon.
That's great. Thanks for having me on.
No problem. Anytime. All right. So that was the great Mike Puma, New York Post reporter. He definitely gave us some great tidbits on what happens over the Subway Series this past weekend. And Mike is a cool dude. I met him at the winter meetings a few years ago, and then we made good connections there. So thankful for Mike always. So I'm going to go with what I saw now, like from what my thoughts of the whole Subway Series and everything that took place. So Mike, he went through a lot of stuff, and he talks about several different things. He mentioned the Soto stuff, which to me is still fascinating theater at this point. Soto leans into it, and the Yankees handled it. Max Fried handled Juan Soto. He struck him out twice. That one curveball he got him on was disgusting. Even Clark Schmidt struck him out. He was 1 for 10. His defense, he made one good play, but that one throw he made was really poor where the Yankees scored a run. I think he's really having a hard time adjusting to Queens right now. He can bring up the stuff with Aaron Judge if he wants to, but still, he's not getting the job done, and they paid him a lot of money to get the job done. So we're going to go under the hood and look at Soto's numbers even more compared to like where we assessed this last time. So Soto's now hitting 246. He's still stuck in the 8 homers and 20 RBI. He does have 1.7 B-WAR, which isn't bad. His on base, like we were saying, still around 380. But for him, like you want him at the 400, OPS 822, OPS plus 136. Now, again, not awful, but not what he's being paid for. So they better hope he picks it up. But the Mets are still in first place, although the Phillies are breathing down their neck, I think, a half game now. So that's where things stand over there. And it's very interesting to see what's going to happen. The Mets are going to be at Fenway Park now. And the Yankees have a home series against the Texas Rangers. And they have an off date, I believe, today. Mets, I think, are playing today because they're already in Boston. So that's what's going on there. And we'll see. What else did I take away from the Subway Series? Game 2 was definitely a game the Yankees could have won, but they didn't, obviously. There were some defensive miscues that led to that Lindor sac fly. Cody Bellinger. Let's give Cody Bellinger his props because Bellinger has had a little bit of a slow start, but Cody Bellinger has arrived as a New York Yankee. And some Met fans don't want to believe it. They're like, oh, we threw our worst pitcher at him. Well, it doesn't matter because Bellinger iced the game. He was basically perfect yesterday. And then he had a big homer the other game too, but they didn't end up capitalizing on it. But again, it's not his fault. But he had a solo shot on Saturday as well. And he has a 13 to 14 game hitting streak right now. So Cody Bellinger's locked in. He's playing great baseball. And obviously, all the stories write themselves with him hitting the homer over Soto's head yesterday, the grand slam that effectively iced the game. Bellinger, fantastic yesterday. He definitely gets the game ball, I would say, even though Max Fried was solid again, 6 innings, 2 runs, 8 Ks. And Max Fried dominates the Mets. And I talked about this with Rashid the other day. He's always dominated the Mets. And guess who got the win yesterday? Mr. Devin Williams. He sure did. An inning of scoreless ball, 1K. He strikes out the side on Friday. So Devin Williams, 2 innings, no runs, 4 strikeouts. He got Alonso as well the other day. So that was good to see. I think, no, he didn't get him yesterday, but he got him to get out. He got him out. Oh, he hit a hard liner yesterday. But great stuff from Devin Williams as he's starting to look more like the pitcher the Yankees were hoping they acquired. How about Jonathan Loaizaga? Let's give it up to Loaizaga. He returns with 2 scoreless appearances after not pitching for a while. That was really good to see as a Nicaraguan. So the Yankees bullpen's getting deeper. They DFA Tyler Matzik. A little bit not surprised. Some of my friends weren't happy with that. Yeri could have went down, but Yeri's been okay. Matzik didn't show much. And again, it's a guy who signed to a minor league deal. It's not the same dude that won the World Series with the Braves a few years ago. So you got to take that with a grain of salt. But great stuff. Great stuff there. So we look forward to what else took place. Tim Hill was solid. He ended the game yesterday with a big lead. Peterson pitched well as I thought he would since the Yankees can't really hit lefties too well. Ryan Stanek was punching 100 yesterday. That was kind of surprising to me. But they did get a run off him and ended up tying the game. So that was important, obviously. We'll see how Stanek continues to look. He was 1-4, but he was pumping fastballs over 100 yesterday, which I've never really seen before. Not realized he threw that hard. But 8 innings, 8th inning is where the Yankees do their work. They score 6 runs. Excellent stuff. So that's exactly what you want to see. Oh, it was the Alonso throw is what caused all that, basically. Yeah, that was the 2 runs. Alonso made a horrifically bad throw. Goldschmidt's been fantastic too. Vivas, let's show some love to Jorbit Vivas. He had a fantastic at-bat yesterday. So work that walk, keep the inning alive, and he was a big reason why they ended up getting that 6th spot. So show some love to Vivas. Peraza struggling a little bit, made an error, still waiting for the bat to come around. Fans are getting impatient. I know the infield is still a massive hole. and they still need to figure that out. Although I will give credit where credit is due because I was out on this guy, but am I going to say he's going to bring me back in? No, I'm far away from that. But had DJ LeMahieu turned back the clock a little bit this weekend, you saw what DJ did. He hit a homer in game 2, got them on the board. He hit the ball hard 4 times on Saturday, but got out twice, I think. He had a big single, too. But LeMahieu looked like his old self a little bit. Now, do I think it's sustainable? Probably not. Do I think he can even hold on to healthy? I have no idea. But what I've been saying about this is that Pablo Reyes is so bad that you want LeMahieu playing instead of him, just to put that lightly. And I don't want to rip into Reyes. It's not his fault. I know he does some good charity work, and I appreciate that. He's done some stuff in the community, which I respect, obviously. My buddy Frank and then Jake with Bronx Zoo. But, he's not a good baseball player, unfortunately. I'd much rather see LeMahieu play than him if that's what it comes down to. I don't want to see Reyes getting any more big at-bats this season at all. I think what the Yankees should do now, honestly, with how things have looked, you play Vivas and LeMahieu against righties. Let DJ play against the righties now at this point. I don't need – unless you do Vivas second, Peraza third, which you could also do. But I'm ready to let LeMahieu play against righties. He did hit a bomb off one on Saturday, Griffin Canning. So I think DJ should play as much as possible now, honestly. Believe it or not. Would I be saying – did I ever think I'd be saying that? No. But that's the state of the Yankees infield right now. So I would play LeMahieu 4 to 5 times a week and see how long they can sustain that. If he can figure it out fully, great. If not, then Jazz will be back. Jazz, let me try to get some updates on Jazz, actually, because I think he might be back sooner than we were thinking. Because, Jazz, last year, I went to Williamsport, and I got a good update from him, and it was actually correct. He's like, I'll be back, less than the time of the IL or, the 10 days or something. I was like, okay. And it ends up being true. So what's going to happen now is my question with Jazz. I got to see something. I'll look at it. It's got to be somewhere. Boom probably said something, I'm sure. But so 4 to 6 weeks, that was May 3rd. So we're already 2 weeks in. He was doing rehab on the 16th, starting to work on stuff this weekend. May 10, no, I need something better than that. I don't know. All right, you know what? If I'm going to take a guess here, I could say him back in early June maybe, because they said 4 to 6 weeks, and he is figuring it out still. So I guess I could check the Yankees videos too. But yeah, sorry I didn't have that ready because I know it's an important thing. Let me check the news on this. Should be coming. My computer wants to operate. That'd be great. But everyone feel free to comment too. Go ahead. Hop in. Puma was here for the first 24, 25-minute range, by the way. If everyone wants to go back and look at that, that's definitely in play. Once I post this, I'll put the timestamps out too. And then we'll go from there. So that's how everything's looking right now. It's not loading properly, but I'll get it. So Jazz, okay, one day Jazz gives an optimistic part. He says 10 days. He said 10 days 2 days ago. So I would say maybe early June, because I think Jazz might be a little more bullish here than the last time. I think it's more severe than the last injury when I spoke to him last year. So let's say early June, worst case mid-June. But the time he's starting stuff means it could be mid, because you still gotta do the rehab games and everything. So that's not the worst news in the world. But I don't expect him to rejoin them during the West Coast trip. I guess that's the best way to put it. They're going to let's say after that. So that would give him 12 games. Let's say 12 more games he returns maybe. So they have an off day. They play the Rangers. They play the Rockies, Angels, and Dodgers all out west. So that's going to be a gauntlet. Not the Rockies, obviously, but the rest of it. Because the Rangers are starting to look better. Jacob deGrom's looking like his old self. That's definitely a team I'm keeping my eyes on, the American League. Again, the Detroit Tigers, 31-16, best team in baseball. Been talking about them for a while, and they continue to just go out there and win games. The Tigers are a serious problem to the Yankees, and even any team, even the National League, because the Tigers can pitch, and their hitting is getting way better. So Gleyber Torres has been good for them. So and even Javi Baez has turned back the clock. Insane. Who would have thought Javi Baez in 2025 would still be a decent player? Not me, that's for sure. And yeah, I've been playing center field too. Almago has returned. It's crazy stuff. Like, it really is. So game one, let's recap game one a little bit. Game one, full discretion. I was watching the Knicks game, which was awesome, by the way. Shout out to my Knicks. They clinched in 6 games in the Eastern Conference Finals. Won't say much more about that, although Karl Anthony Towns, Dominican, great player. Fantastic story for the Knicks. But my reasoning for going there is I wasn't watching game one as much because of that. But what I did see was that McGill couldn't find the zone. The Mets defense was definitely sloppy. Paul Goldschmidt played a very good game that day again. He had 2 RBIs. He had a lot of big hits that day. He's been fantastic, Goldschmidt. So he continues to be a great addition for the Yankees. He's worth every penny. I take full discretion there. I was 100% wrong. It was a great move. Christian Walker has not been good, and Goldschmidt has been great. So shout out to Cashman for that. He got that one right, and I was dead wrong on that. And I'll admit that. When I'm wrong, I'm wrong. So I was wrong there. The thing is, I always liked Goldschmidt as a player. This was one of my favorite dudes in the Diamondbacks, Cardinals, but the 38 years old threw me off because we saw what happened with Rizzo when he was 35. Little injuries played a part, but it's very tough to sign off on a first baseman 3 years old or after what went down with Anthony Rizzo. But he's been as good as he's been, way better. His defense has been good too. So props to Paul Goldschmidt and Aaron Judge. Good job identifying your friends' talent and bring him in here, because that was part of it as well. And also Goldie, again, I need to commend Goldie because he took less money. He took less money to come to the Yankees. So that's another thing. Props to Goldie all the way around. He has been absolutely fantastic. And I'm going to go back to that game. He was 2 for 4 with 2 RBIs. And then Bellinger was really good that day too. He was 3 for 5 with a double. So Bellinger's been on it. Goldschmidt's hitting 339, 878 OPS. Let's check in on Cody Bellinger before we go through his game. And then I'll probably sign off and maybe some Volpe talk too, because people are talking about AV a lot. So I'll get to him to end the show, I think. Rodon was also good in game one. He wasn't great, but he was good. 1 run in 5 innings, 5 strikeouts. You sign up for that every time. Clark Schmidt was pretty good on Saturday too. He worked around 5 walks, gave them a quality start, which is all you could really ask for in the Subway Series for Clark. So I think he did a good job. And then Fernando Cruz faltered a little bit. Cruz has been great. He's not going to be perfect. So there's 0 issues with Fernando Cruz, 0 concerns with Fernando Cruz. I think he's going to be just A-okay, if not better than that. So Cruz, he was part of the reason why they lost on Saturday, but they always scored 2 runs again. Volpe was 2 for 4 on Saturday, by the way. 2 for 4. Double. So, yes, he had a bad day yesterday, but he wasn't awful the whole series. Yeah, Cruz went 1 1/3, 1 walk and a run. His command wasn't really there. Only half his pitches for strikes, so not his best day. But again, not really worried about that. Cody Bellinger. Bellinger was lights out yesterday. He was 3 for 3, had the big grand slam. He had a double, single. He was on it yesterday, and he walked, I want to say twice. Yeah, I think twice. 2 times he walked as well. He reached his base all 5 times. Now, Cody Bellinger is up to 258, 7 bombs, 28 RBIs, and a 790 OPS, which is fantastic considering where he was a few weeks ago. He was scraping at the low 600s. So now Bellinger is starting to look like the player the Yankees hoped they were getting when they traded for him, and that's a good sign going forward. So now I'll close down with Anthony Volpe. Volpe, was horrifically bad yesterday. There's no way to slice it. He was awful. He swung at pitches he should not have swung at. He bailed the pitcher out when the bases were loaded, first pitch, and then he swings at 3 balls when he's up 3-0 in the count. Not good. But at the same time, there's a conversation that needs to be had here. And I'm going to have another conversation very soon, actually, with the prospect guy, Jonathan Mayo, about Lombard and maybe I'll touch on Volpe too, if I could, but we'll see. So, yeah, yesterday he was not good. There is no two ways around it. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. He was bad, but overall in the series, he was not that bad. He was, yesterday 0 for 5 with 2 Ks. It's not what you want, obviously. But let's look through his whole numbers for the season. OPS 745, average 238, 6 bombs, 25 RBI. Yeah, you'd like to see more. There's no question about it. It's not god-awful concerning his defense, and if you take a look deeper, he's probably slightly above average as a hitter right now, I would guess, and that's what I'm going to do. But it's probably approaching 2 WAR also, which is good for 2 months into the season. But, yeah, well, 1.2 on Fangraphs, but his WRC is 112, yeah. So he's right around, he's a little above average, yeah. Let's see what the B WAR is. Anthony Volpe's B WAR. But either way, I mean, George Lombard should not replace Anthony Volpe at shortstop for about a million different reasons. First of all, the Yankees need a third baseman. If you replace Volpe at shortstop, he's not a third baseman. And then you put him at second, maybe. I mean, you're not going to move on from Volpe yet anyway. If you do that, you still have 2 more years to consider that because he's only in the 3rd year playing still. So that makes no sense to me. And I know George is silky smooth at short. Don't get me wrong. I also think he'd be a great defender, but his frame also fits third base, and the Yankees need a third baseman desperately. And then they could keep Chisholm at second. So that's what I would do. But will they do that? We're going to have to see. I had his stats. Hold on. So Volpe, and I'm not going to talk about George in this show because, I'll do that in another show. Like his stuff. But Volpe is 7 steals too. His OPS plus is 111. Yeah, so he's slightly above average, hitting 1.5 B WAR. So is he great? No. Is he bad? No. He's slightly above average. But the Yankees want more than that, and he should want more than that, and I get it. And I want to see him do better than that too because of all the stuff that was said, how highly talented he was, how good he was supposed to be. And he is good, but he's not great. That's the problem. He's good, but not great. But can he become great still? Yeah, he's a 30-year player, sure. I mean, he's only 23 now, 24? He's still a baby. 24, wow, time's flying. But regardless of that, it was actually really cool because I remember one of the first times they wore the Zorro jerseys in Somerset, he hit that walk-off bomb when Chapman was pitching. And this weekend was another Zorro's day, and that's going to be my transition. So thanks, everyone. I appreciate it. It was really fun today. I have a little break, and then I got another prospect pod at 12. Now, I may or may not put it live. I think I will put it live on the channel, but I'm not going to, share the live links because I need to get the looks for Puma. And then I'll probably share Mayo, Tuesday because that's, when the prospect stuff comes back since they're off today, so it's perfect. Okay, everyone follow me at Julian Gallardi 1 on Twitter. Julian Gallardi 11 on Insta. If you search my name, I'm also on TikTok, Facebook. And then everyone subscribe to Araskin on all platforms. It's been a fun ride for sure. I appreciate all of it. And I'm looking forward to seeing what happens this week going forward. So thanks again, everyone.